Hi guys. This first half of the week we're going to be looking at inverses. What is an inverse, you ask? Well, it is basically like the reverse or kind of the opposite of a function. You probably have heard of inverse operations. If you haven't heard of them, you've definitely used them when solving. Kind of like when we talk about the opposite of plus is minus, the opposite of minus, or the opposite of multiplies by, those are inverse operations. Well, with inverse functions, essentially what we do is we swap out the x's for the y's. So looking at like coordinate points, pairs, points, whatever. Really, like, they're written as x, y. X, y, x, y. Yeah, they're all x, y. So for the inverse, I'm going to make the y the x and make the x the y. Now for the first one, doesn't really matter, right? Doesn't look any different because the x and the y are the same. But for the second one, I'm going to flip them. Instead of 0, 1, it is now 1, 0. Instead of 4, 2, I'm going to write, instead of 2, 4, I'm going to put 4, 2. Instead of 4, 7, I'm going to put 7, 4. See? Super easy. Totally, totally awesome. Anyway, with a table, it is essentially the same thing. You just have to make sure that in the table, the right pairs stay matched together. They're just on opposite sides. So for this one, for the inverse, first point will be 0, 8, 2, negative 4, because I'm just, whatever this one is, I'm swapping them. I'm just swapping out the x's for the y's and the y's for the x's. So the next one becomes 4, 0. And then 6, 4. Last one doesn't really change, right? 8, 8 is 8, 8. It is what it is. Okay. So with a graph, since we generally graph by plotting points, the easiest way to graph an inverse from a graph is to make a table of points and then reverse them and plot those. So I'm going to make a table for the function. Over there on the left, that's negative 4, 0.125. Basically, it's just really close to 0. This is exponential. Then I've got the point 0, 2, got the point 2, 8, and 3, 16. So just for fun, we know that this is the equation. So our A would be 2, because that's our y-intercept. And as I go up, well, I skipped the 1. But as I go up, I'm multiplying by 2. So, because it would be 1, 4, then 2, 8, and 3, 16. That would be the pattern. But anyway, that's beside the point. To get the inverse, we're going to use a new table. Oops, why did I do that? I'm just so excited about reversing them. I'm not calling them the right thing. My new table, where I'm just going to swap them. So I've got 0.125 and negative 4. Then 2, 0. Then 8, 2. Then 16, 3. So you can't really see the lines very good on my screen. I don't know if you guys can see them, but I can't see them on my computer screen, but I can see them on my tablet. They go by 2s, so you're just going to have to trust me that I'm plotting them correctly. But anyway, so I'm going to start with just really close to 0 and down at like negative 4, which would be about down here. Just gets really close to 0 for the x. The point 2, 0 would be there. Then I've got 8, 2, and then 16, 3. So it's going to look like that. Lovely. Now, fun fact about the graphs of inverses. If you look at them, there's a symmetry. So if you draw the line y equals x, which is just right through the origin, and it has a slope of 1. So it's pretty easy graph to line to graph. Sorry. Inverses are always reflected over this line. So if I folded the paper in half, my original function and my new function, the inverse, the points would all match up. So just a fun fact that might come in up later in like pre-cal and stuff. But anyway, cool. With an equation, I'm going to swap out the x and the y. So I'm going to write it as x equals -3/4 times y plus 6. And then I just solve it for y. So I'm going to start by subtracting 6 on both sides, because when we solve, we go in reverse order of operations. So I've got x minus 6, because those don't actually go together. One's got an x and one doesn't. They are not like terms. Equals -3/4 y. Now, I need to divide by the number attached to y. But if you remember, dividing by a fraction means that you multiply by the reciprocal. So that's multiplying by -4/3. If you have a calculator handy and it's scientific at least, you could divide by negative, or just divide by -3/4. But you don't always have to, like your phone, you can't do, like your phone calculator doesn't do all that. So you don't always have access to a scientific calculator. So it's good to know things about fractions. But keep in mind that I have to do -4/3 times everything on the left side, both of those terms. So with the x, it's super easy. -4/3 times x is just -4/3 x. There is a couple of different ways that you could think about -4/3 times -6. If you think of 6 as the fraction 6/1, you would just multiply straight across. -4 times -6 is 24. 3 times 1 is 3. 24 divided by 3 is 8. Some people could break it down and see that there's 6 is 2 times 3, and you can cancel out the 3's, and it just becomes 4 times 2. Either way, you get 8. Whatever works for your brain. So equals y. Sorry, these cancel each other out. So that I'm just going to write it over so that it looks, usually y goes on the right. Y equals -4/3 x plus 8. Then if you look at their graphs, you will notice that if so let me change this one to like, I'm going to do a different color. Well, let me do a different color. Oh. Color, let's make it bright red. Okay, so you've got the red line and the blue line. There we go. So if I fold it across the dotted line, which is just y equals x, the red lines and the blue lines, it looks like they would touch each other. Like if you can kind of visualize if that were a piece of paper and you folded it in half along there, the points would be touching. So we did it right. Hey, look at us go. But that's one way to check yourself if you ever get concerned that maybe you did something wrong. Anyway, that is the basics of inverses. And next week, we're going to look more at the specific inverse of exponential functions, which, spoiler alert, this was an exponential function. So we're going to learn more about those kind of graphs. How exciting for you. I know you can probably hardly stand the wait. Anyway, so yeah, I will see you guys at the live meet. If you have questions, feel free to email me or stay after class or whatevs. But I will see you guys later.